Hi, I'm Mike Pelonzi. I own and operate Safety Academy USA right here in Beverly. Really excited to be here at BevCam doing the show on safety for the summer, especially this time of year with this heat. Tell you a little about me. I've been doing safety training for the last 26 years, everything from firearms, pepper spray, defensive tactics. I also am a Red Cross first aid, CPR, AED instructor, focusing on pediatric child adult. I also do BLS training as well. So before I start, I gotta thank a few people for setting this whole thing up for me. I was a guest on Healthy Homes a couple weeks ago. Richard Mullen was the host. Thank you, Richard, appreciate this. And I also wanna thank Chris Harvey, who's producing this and set this all up, and he did a great job last time. Thank you. Michelle Lopez, awesome job, helped me through the first show. Thank you for her. And of course, I have to thank my supporting wife, Lisa, supports me in everything I do. She's behind the camera now. She won't come in front, but that's okay. So today is the 20th, the first day of summer, and my first time doing this. So let's talk about heat, because today they're gonna break a record. It's gonna be 100 degrees, and I wanna talk a little about heat illness, what happens to the body, how we can prevent it from happening to ourselves, and more importantly, our children. And I have some child safety tips coming up at the end. Things you may not realize what happens to kids outside. So heat illness is in a warm environment. The body relies on sweating to cool the body down. If we don't hydrate properly, and I'm going to talk about that, we become dehydrated, and a few things happen to the body. We can stop sweating, which is more serious, and the first sign of heat illness is heat cramps. Heat cramps affect the muscles, particularly in the legs and the abdomen. This is due to loss of fluids, electrolytes, carbohydrates in the body. Not as severe as the other two, heat stroke and heat exhaustion. Heat cramps can turn into heat exhaustion and heat stroke if not treated. The best way to treat someone, they start cramping out outside, take them to a cool place. You want to have them drink something with electrolytes and carbohydrates, preferably a sports drink. If you don't have a sports drink, the next best thing, believe it or not, is coconut milk. If you don't have any coconut milk, go right to regular milk that you probably have in your refrigerator. And lastly is water. And everyone says, I can't believe water is beyond milk and coconut milk, but it is, because milk and coconut milk will replenish the body faster than just straight water. Obviously, if that's all you have, don't delay. Give that person some fluids, keep them in the shade. Another thing you want to have them do while they're hydrating is sipping, not gulping, because you don't want to make the cramps in the stomach worse. Once they start feeling better, if they're cramping in the leg, have them massage the muscles in the leg. Kind of work the blood through, get it loosened up. If they're feeling all right, they look okay, they're not disoriented, you're good to go, back to whatever activities you're doing. Maybe they'll take it a little easier. So that's the least serious of the three heat conditions that I'm going to talk about today, heat cramps. After that is heat exhaustion. We've gone through leg cramps, someone's fought through it. A lot of people do, they want to fight through to keep doing what they're doing. And what happens is we lose more fluids in our bodies. Fatigue comes on faster. With fatigue comes thirst. If they become nauseous, they start vomiting, they're going to lose more bodily fluids, which is going to cause dizziness, lightheadedness. They can even become irritable. That's the first sign that it's going to progressing to the next stage, which is heat stroke. They become irritable, argumentative. Try to talk to them. At this point, we would always call 911. We would call 911. We, again, get them in a cool place. Same thing. Sports drink, coconut milk, regular milk, water. The difference is with heat exhaustion, if they're wearing t-shirts, sweatshirts, tie, suit and tie if someone's out there, take the tie off, loosen the clothing up. I'm not telling you to tear all the clothes off, but you want to get some of the clothing off, start getting some air ventilating through the body. The heart rate could start increasing, so if they have underlying heart conditions or existing heart conditions, we may move into heat exhaustion or heart attack, which we don't want to do. So we'll go right into heat stroke. They're alone, they're out doing whatever they're doing, they've gone through the previous two. Heat stroke, they may present as they've been having a stroke. They can seem confused, have slurred speech. They will definitely become unconscious, and their life could be in danger if medical care is not given immediately. You would immediately call 911, get them into a cool location. At this point, they could suffer seizures or the inability to swallow. So if you ask them, can you drink something, don't force it down them. If someone is having a heat stroke, they're probably not going to be able to take anything orally through the mouth. You're going to need to wait till the ambulance gets there and give them some IV fluids. This is a life-threatening situation, and every second counts. Doesn't take long in this heat. Everyone responds differently to the temperatures, depending on what side of the country you're from. I mean, we grew up here. We're used to this. People from Arizona, it's nothing new. But people who are from colder climates that move here, if this is their first exposure to extreme heat, keep an eye on them, because they may say they're okay, and in a second they can just start feeling dizzy, disoriented, and go down to heat stroke. So that's what can happen to adults. Let's talk about kids. Kids are outside, they're playing, it's awesome, schools are out, great time of year for kids, but unfortunately in America, an average of 37 children die every year from heat stroke. And what happens is they're usually 14 years of age younger. 10% of those people pass away because they got into someone's car. They're outside playing, they're playing hide and seek, they're not with an adult, they got in someone's car, they're hiding, and they suffer heat stroke. And this time of weather is 90 degrees. Today, a car temperature will reach 109 degrees in 10 minutes with the doors closed. So the kids may dive in there, be exposed to 109 degree temperature, and can cause serious injury relatively quickly. So if your child is missing, if you have a pool, I'm going to do drowning later on. Always check the pool first. If no one's in the pool, check your vehicle and check the trunk. Kids are really good at finding a little place to hide. And just don't look in the window. Open the car door, look on the floor. Because a lot of times, depending on the car, especially some SUVs, you can see in the vehicle, you can see in the seat, but you can't see on the floor where a kid could be hiding. Remember, it's never safe to leave a child alone in a car, even when the window's cracked. Temperature can go 109 degrees, like I said, in 10 minutes. And so those are for kids playing outside, running around, a little older. Let's talk about infants. Awesome. Congratulations on new parents. One thing you need to understand, infants cannot regulate their body temperature like kids and adults. On a day like today, keep them in the shade, keep them hydrated. Infants can't tell us they're thirsty. You will need to know, as a parent, how long they've been outside, keep them in the shade when they need fluids. Their body makeup is different because their body's developing, so infants don't sweat like kids and adults. So it's one thing to think about. I know I do a lot of work with parents. Choking is a big concern, obviously. Children, infants, as a rule, won't have a cardiac event due to a problem with their heart. What do kids do? They choke. They put something down their mouth, down their throat. They swallow it, blocks the airway. Then we need to know how to do choke resuscitation on them. And I'm going to be doing a first aid class here in a few weeks, where I'm going to go over choking for adults and infants. I am going to show you how to do some chest compression a little bit on an infant in case they drown along with rescue breaths. So let's talk about hydration. Why are kids getting hydrated at a faster rate now than when I was a kid? And I'm 60. So I grew up in a time when we did not have power drinks. We had water. Maybe someone came through with some sports drinks, but we didn't have all the energy drinks we have now. The problem with the energy drinks is they're high in sugar and caffeine is a diuretic. So although immediately it will quench someone's thirst, but it's really, you're going to lose more bodily fluids because you're going to have to go to the bathroom more. So kids are dehydrating at a faster rate now because they're drinking all these power drinks as opposed to drinking a sports drink or water. I mean, coconut milk, obviously. But that's the problem now is, and we see a lot in sports with kids, teenagers especially, they are pounding down all these power drinks, but they're not hydrating themselves. So they're going out, they're sweating, tons of caffeine, tons of sugar. it's putting their body at risk. So parents need to know this. And people have gotten a handle on it now. When these first came out, we really weren't aware of how much it was going to affect people or how popular they were. No one ever, people back in the day wanted to get some energy. What they do, they ran down and got a cup of coffee. Now, power drinks are everywhere, and everyone's drinking them wherever you go. You see people in cars, but they're not hydrating. They're quenching the thirst temporarily, but it's a false sense. Just like in the old days, people thought if you were freezing, take a shot of brandy, it would warm you. Well, it would feel warm, but it's actually lowering your internal body temperature. So, power drinks, sure, but the majority of the drinks your kids should be having is obviously sports drinks, water is available, coconut milk, and then milk. Iced tea is not a bad one. When at the end of the day, I don't recommend during sports games. I know a lot of people drink iced tea. Good at the end, but not the again. The caffeine that's in it is a diuretic, and it could make you go to the bathroom more, taking more fluids off your body. Let's talk about drowning. We go out, we can't find our kids. We see someone in the pool. First thing we want to do is give rescue breaths, and I'm going to demonstrate that now. Okay, we're back, and let's talk about one of our children or an infant in the water. We get them out of the pool, get them on a flat surface. Unlike CPR with infants, which again, I'll be doing a show on that later on another time, on that we start with chest compressions. When it comes to drowning, you want to start with rescue breaths. How do you perform rescue breaths? Okay, slightly tip the head up to open the airway. Put your mouth on. You may have to pinch the nose. If it's a really small baby, hopefully it's not, you can actually put your mouth over the mouth and nose. But for this one, I'm just going to pinch the nose, tip the head up, give 2 rescue breaths. Now, adrenaline's going to be a lot. With infants and young children, it's more of a puff than a blow. All right? So we're going to tip it up, 2 quick puffs. At which point, we're going to start chest compressions. Chest compression in an infant, find the nip line just below the nip line. Compressions are done 1 of 2 ways. The 2-finger method, which you take 2 fingers, and what you want to do is you want to push down about 1.5 inches and release, and you want to do this 30 times. The thing to remember is, when we're doing this, 1, 2, 3, always release the chest. Let the chest come back up to give a full chest compression. I prefer the 2-thumb circling method, which is where you get up, 2 thumbs just below the nipple line, and you would give compression again, 1.5 inches, 1, 2, 3, 4. This will fatigue you less and give you better chest compressions. Chest compressions are tough, where we're doing the circling method. And you would continue 30. See if the baby starts crying, coughing. If you start seeing some coughing, you roll the baby over so they can cough out the water. If not, we're back to the 2 rescue breaths. Obviously, we'd have a cell phone here, 911 on speaker. If you're not sure how to do this, they'll talk you through it. 911 operators are phenomenal at helping people in an emergency like this. Tip the head up, a couple breaths, and continue the chest compressions until the baby is revived, help arrives, EMS arrives, or hopefully you don't have to do CPR on them. And we'll get into that another time. So that's drowning. I mentioned earlier, kids are going to choke. They're going to block the airway. As a rule, young kids, infants don't have cardiac problems that older people do. When we have to start doing CPR, get the AED out, try to get the heart back in rhythm. So let's talk about choking. We come up, child's bluish, something's wrong. Parents, you have that sixth sense, something's wrong with that child. What's going on? Nowadays, we are back-to-back blows. There was a time where we did back blows, then they did away with it, and now we're back to it. So what's the proper way to give back blows to an infant, along with chest compressions, which is exactly the same as I did during the water rescue? Okay, so what you want to do is you want to support the baby's head, chin. Do not cover the mouth with your arm. Place the baby on your leg with the head and angle down. 5 back blows. right between the shoulder blades. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to support the head and neck. You're going to rotate the baby over. We're going to do chest compressions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to take a visual look in the mouth. If you see an object, because children are so small, take your pinky, call it a pinky finger sweep, and sweep the item out. If you don't see anything, go back to the back blows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Come over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And look, continue on until the object's out, the baby starts to cry, the baby starts to cough forcefully. If you believe the baby is in cardiac arrest, then we would start CPR, which again, we'll go over another time. But that way, we can at least clear the airway, hopefully, and get the baby breathing. Obviously, 911's been activated. One thing about choking, whether it's an infant, child, adult, when you do any kind of abdominal thrust, any kind of first aid, open the airway, once they're breathing, it's an immediate trip to the emergency room. You want to have their throat and lungs checked out, make sure there's nothing else in there. It is possible, mostly for adults who don't want to go, that they could have done damage and they could bleed internally through the night. So you always want to have your throat scoped to make sure there's no damage down there. Listen, I hope you never have to do this to anyone, but at least now, hopefully you know how. Again, kids put stuff in their mouths all the time, and they run around, especially now they're outside. You know, kids are making sounds with different things. If it's small enough, when they inhale, it can go down their throat. Hopefully someone gets you, and then you can clear the airway. So speaking of 911, we all got that alert yesterday. 911 system was down. My mother called me in a panic, 85 years old. I don't know the phone number. I get it. I printed out the phone number, but I made it very large so she could see it without her glasses in case of emergency. So I printed out the police phone number, non-emergency, which is 978-922-1212, and the fire department police emergency, which in Beverly is 978-922-4000. I made it big. She could put it right by the phone, taped it. Not a bad idea if they're going to have problems with the 911 system. You know, it's a computer. I don't think I have to explain computer problems to people. We all had them. They did a great job. They had it back up in an hour. But, you know, if it needed to be an hour, Boston, I got that alert. They were telling people if you needed medical help to run outside and pull a firebox. So have these numbers listed, ready to go. And the last thing I have is safety tip, which I always like to do at the end of all my classes, whether it's defensive tactics. I just like to throw a little safety tip to people, something they may not think about. Most people have both these in their house, but they have them in the wrong place. They keep these items in a bathroom closet, upstairs bathroom closet. Some guys keep it on a workbench downstairs. Burn spray and Band-Aids. Where are we going to need these? Where are we going to cut ourselves? We're going to cut ourselves in the kitchen. Where are we going to burn ourselves? We're going to burn ourselves on the stove. Have these in the kitchen somewhere. Drives my wife crazy. Where do I keep this? Right with her spices. She's like, do you have to keep it in the spices? Yes, honey, I do. Because that's what I teach, and we want to practice what I teach. And I love her. She puts up with me. Thank you, Lise. Band-Aids, couple Band-Aids in a drawer with the knives in a cabinet, just so when you cut yourself, you can control it. So you're not running through the house, bleeding, holding. We've all done that. We cut ourselves, held it. The blood's been dripping all over the place. We find bandages up, and then we have to clean up the blood. So that's the safety tip of the day. Keep them in the kitchen. They'll be right there. I had fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I want to thank everyone that made this possible. Again, Chris and Michelle, Rich, and my loving wife. And I will be bringing more tips and shows from Safety Academy USA in Beverly. Thank you.